Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. We've been doing a good job lately, I think, of trying to cover more ground than just the USA. The UK has been producing some incredible talent over the past few years, and this is the newest UK BFF British champion, super heavyweight and overall, James Hollingshead. Thanks for joining us, James.
How you doing, Ron, my man? You right?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Am I saying your name right? Hollingshead?
Yeah, you're actually probably the only person that says it right. I've had Hollingsworth, Hollingshead, everything you could think of without Hollingshead at the end. So, good job there. Good job. You did that well.
I did almost say Hollingsworth. For some reason, that sounds more natural. I don't know why.
I know. Everyone does that.
Okay, so let's find out a little bit about you. I always want to go back to the beginning. How did you get into all this stuff? How did you get into weight training, bodybuilding, all of it?
God, this is going back quite a while now, Ron.
Can't be that long. How old are you?
I'm 28, but I started lifting weights I did start lifting weights really early. I had this obsession. My dad used to lift weights a lot, and in the house there was always the plates laying around, like just hidden away in cupboards. And I remember being a kid, and I just remember being obsessed with digging out these plates. I mean, they must have been like 5 kilo discs, and I don't know how old I was. I was sub 10 years old. I wasn't even 10 years old yet. Wow. And I would have a habit of laying on my back with these 5 kilo discs and literally pressing them to the ceiling. So I got really into it really early. It was a strange obsession. But then there was a big break after that. Once those discs disappeared, I kind of didn't do that anymore. And the gym didn't get seen again until probably I was about 15 years old.
Okay. So in the beginning, were you just trying to do it because that's, you wanted to be like your dad?
Pretty much. It was just like a emulate your father kind of thing, He does it, I'll do it.
So
he's big.
At 15, what happened to get your interest back into it again?
At 15, I was at high school, and a friend of mine, his brother was quite a lump, and he had some weights in his garage. So we obviously just thought, okay, we'll be cool, we'll hang around with the older brother. Yeah. So we basically just used to hang around in the garage after school, only for like maybe half hour or so. And there was literally a bench press and an EZ bar. That was all there was. So there was no leg training, but it was, we were trying to bench press and we were trying to do curls. Those were the two movements that we did, and that was it.
Pretty much what everybody does when they first start.
Yeah.
They don't know shit.
It was a good time. It was a great start. And I remember seeing the brother bench 60 kilos and thinking, bloody hell, like 60 kilos is obviously only about 120 pounds or so. Yeah. And we thought that was like untouchable weight. We thought if we could do that one day, we'll be fantastic. So the goal was always we need to do one plate aside, 120 kilo plate, and then we'll be men. And that was always the goal. And we managed to kind of do that, and then we had to step it up from the garage and go to the gym. So it served its purpose. It was a good little start.
I just saw you on your Instagram the other day doing 440 pounds for 10 reps on the bench press.
Yeah.
It didn't even look like it was that difficult.
I think because I started doing the bench press really young, it's just one of those movements that I've got a real good synergy with. Yeah. It was always an exercise that I found very comfortable. Like, I know I watched your episode with Luke the other day, and he's kind of the opposite. He didn't find bench press very comfortable. Right. He's a very powerful guy, and it just shows that it comes down to what you're comfortable with. Yeah. And I just seem to be very comfortable on a bench press. Yeah. So
he's like a deadlift monster, and you seem to be a damn good bench.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like if you give him a deadlift, I'm sure he could pull near to 400 kilos. He's a ridiculously powerful bloke.
So when did you become interested and aware of bodybuilding as a sport? Like, who were the first bodybuilders you remember seeing either on TV, magazines, wherever? I guess it would have been internet at that. You had internet when you were a kid.
It was actually Ronnie Coleman was the first bodybuilder I saw. This was probably around about 2005, 2006. And I borrowed a few DVDs of a friend who was a bodybuilder at the time. Yeah. I think one of them was The Unbelievable, or the one where he just lifts ridiculous, stupid weight.
The Unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah, so I just borrowed that and I just watched that and I thought, Jesus, like this guy. Like I was more impressed with the power than the body.
Right.
Again, kind of like Luke, I wasn't that interested in the physique. I was interested in the strength at first. And Ronnie Coleman was obviously a very good example of someone that was also strong with it. Yeah. And I think that caught my eye more than anything, was just the sheer power of the guy. I thought, you know what, if you can get that strong, that's something that I would love to be able to do. So it wasn't even about the physique, to be fair. It just comes kind of with it. So
it sounds like you would have gravitated more toward powerlifting, strongman, that type of stuff. How did you end up with bodybuilding?
So initially when I was training, it was all for strength. And it's just funny because you're genetically either going to be someone that responds, physically to the training, or you're not. I know a lot of people that were training kind of at the same time as me and spent the same amount of time in the gym, but our physiques would go in a different direction. I was just fortunate that my physique started to take shape with that kind of training. So even though it was powerlifting more so, very low rep, limited movements, the body started to respond. So it was only when my friend was like, you know what, you should compete. And he was the bodybuilder I was on about at the time. He was a couple of years older than me. Yeah. I had watched him compete in 2006. Still not overly interested at that time. But once he said, you know what, you should have a look at yourself and maybe give it a go. I think it was 2008, I decided to do my first show. So it was it took like 2 years for me to think, you know what, I might do this. I wasn't too keen at first.
Were you at a gym where there were other competitors, where people were?
Yeah, I was at a brilliant gym, very old school. It was a gym that opened in the 1980s called Pink's Gym. Yeah. Literally, the owner was a guy called Peter Pink. And he was like proper old school, like from the days of, like the Gary Stridhams and whatnot. Yeah. And the gym had that feel. We had people like, before my time, like Bertil Fox come down. So it had a bit of history, the gym. And it was a bodybuilding gym through and through. Very tight, very small, kind of very enclosed environment, very personal. It wasn't one that like many people would feel comfortable in, to be honest. Right. But I kind of like that. It was it fed me a certain energy, and so there's a lot of guys around me that were a few years older. Some guys are actually like masters competitors as well that were there, that were competing. So, and again, other people that had finished their careers. So there was a lot of people, but no one very current apart from my one friend. Yeah. He was the only person that was still kind of doing it, and he was the one that I was kind of comparing myself to on and off. I was thinking, you know what, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. So there was a good vibe there. We had a very good natural bodybuilder there who used to be, I think he was like Mr. World and whatnot. So he was kind of the main bodybuilder in the gym. Yeah. So we used to look up to him because he was a very, very good bodybuilder. So me and my friend would look to him, and that was about it, really. There wasn't too many. It was kind of London. It's funny because London versus like the North, if you go to like the Midlands, bodybuilding's a lot bigger. Yeah. Although central London, you got like Muscle Works. Right. I wasn't in central London. I was in like the outskirts where there wasn't a lot of bodybuilding going on, so it was far and few. Okay. But he kind of got me into it, so we kind of sparked a new a new phase for people to start competing again. And this is before social media, so it was just word of mouth. People were like, "Oh, okay, we'll try competing."
So how old were you when you finally did your first show?
I think I was 18. Okay. 18 when I did my first show, and it was a good experience, really good. I think I came second out of like 7 guys in the junior lineup, and I qualified for the finals because it was close, so that was pretty nice. And then that kind of point for me was the point where you're like, okay, I did quite well, so maybe let's pursue this, and it kind of started there, really.
So how did you know what to do? I mean, did your friend help you prepare for that first show, or you either need a coach or you're going to make a lot of dumb mistakes usually? Yes.
See, my friend's going to watch this and hate me because I used to look at him and try and do what he didn't do because he was really bad with diet. Okay. He wasn't bad at knowing what to do, but he's bad at sticking to it. Yeah. So he was the type to cheat a lot on his diet, and I could see the holes. So I was watching him and I was thinking, if only he was a bit stricter with this. Other things like walking on a treadmill, he was always holding on. And I was like, if I don't hold on, I'll burn more calories. So I was just kind of using him as my what not to do. Yeah, literally, that was it. And it paid off doing that, actually, because the flaws that I saw were the flaws that I needed to kind of avoid. So it did work. It did work.
So your first show, you did pretty well. I mean, did people... a lot of people compete, but very few of them are destined to be anything special. Did anybody come up to you and recognize, there's some really good potential in you? You need to keep doing this.
There was some good feedback. There was some really decent feedback at the time. But because there wasn't social media, even then there wasn't much, no one really got in touch with each other. So I would imagine if I did that a few years later, I would have had a few messages. Oh, mate, that was a good show. You look good. Maybe you should do this, do that. This was just before it kind of sparked off with the social, so you literally only knew the people that you knew, and unless they had your phone number, you're not going to know whether they liked what you brought or not. So it was didn't quite get to the point where it was easy to message each other and tell each other you've done well.
Yeah.
Which is strange because it's not even that long ago, but it feels like it was a lifetime ago.
Yeah, social media is a lot younger than we assume it is at times.
Exactly. And it's not until you look back that you realize that and you're like, damn, what did I do before this?
So Giles came up with some good questions. You know, I always want to know if somebody had any real good help, like a mentor. You mentioned Steve Avery. Was that somebody that helped you out a lot?
Oh, yeah, Steve Avery.
So who is Steve, first of all, and how did he end up helping you?
Steve Avery is a bodybuilder from the UK that had been a very, very successful junior back in, I think it was even the 70s. A couple of British titles under his belt. He had also matured into a Misters champion as well, so he had several British titles as a Mister. And he's still going to this day, and he's got a couple of Masters titles to his name as well. So he's basically just like, if bodybuilding was in anyone's blood, it's in this guy's blood, because he hasn't left it for a period of 50 years.
Wow.
And he's one of the guys that even professionals look up to, because he never won his pro card. He just missed out a couple of times. And yet, if you ask professionals who's one of the best British bodybuilders of all time, a lot of people would say Steve Avery. And I was lucky because he was a local guy. I was training at a pretty run-down gym. It wasn't actually Pink's at the time. I decided to have a little change.
Yeah.
And fortunately, Steve was training there. And my friend, who I didn't copy, was good friends with him and introduced me. And we kind of just got off to a good start. Relationship kind of just blossomed because we were on a level. He was very blunt, very honest, and I needed that and I liked that. And I think he saw a bit of potential. So we decided to train together, and we did. We trained together for a solid off season and a solid show, and we both did pretty well with that. And I learned a lot from the guy. He is an absolute legend. It's a shame because a lot of his posing routines are some of the best that have ever been done. I kid you not. He idolized Bob Paris and all the people that were marvelous at displaying their physiques. Yeah. And you don't see a lot of that now. And Steve can still do that now at over 50 years old. He's still able to pose better than everyone. And, credit where credit's due. I learned how to pose from him. I learned how to connect with the muscle when I'm training with him. He showed me that it isn't all about weight. He taught me a lot. And if there's one person I have to thank massively who helped me with my bodybuilding, it's definitely him.
Okay. So, Steve Avery, everybody. Give him credit.
Steve Avery, seriously.
So it seems like the size came pretty quickly because even as a junior, you were super heavy, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think I'm just heavy boned because I don't have the round muscle that someone like Luke has, but I do weigh a lot, so I do wonder where all that weight is. Maybe I've got too much water in my under the skin. I don't know. I think I was 100 and I know it's all kilos, but I was over 220. I think I was about 220 pounds as a junior.
Wow.
So yeah, I was quite heavy. But I'm not short either. I'm not short ass like Luke. I'm 5'11".
Okay. So what did you weigh when you won the Brits a couple months ago?
I was only 236, I think, something like that. I was a little bit over dieted, but
yeah, condition was great. That's how.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
So you actually won your class, the super heavyweight class, back in 2014.
Yeah.
Which in America that would have been a pro card at any of our pro qualifiers, just winning that class. But you lost the overall to Nathan Dasha.
Who better to lose it to? Really,
some people have said in situations like that, looking back, it's a good thing I didn't win then because I wasn't really ready for it. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like?
100%.
Yeah.
I 100% feel that way. I think I needed to endure this period of time, to know if this is truly what I'm meant to do. Because if I had it that easy and if things just kept going winner's circle, if I just kept winning, then when I did face a loss, I don't know how I would have dealt with it. So I'm glad to have experienced it hard then, because that taught me that endurance is the most important thing in bodybuilding, because you're not always going to have it your way. Yeah. I've spoke to Ron Partlow on several occasions, and his stories about how long it took him to win a pro card makes you realize that true bodybuilders do it, and they will do it until they get there. They won't stop.
It took him. He's a pro now, right, Ron Partlow?
Yeah, I think he said something like 10 attempts.
Oh, I want to say more than that because
maybe more, yeah, maybe 10 years.
Oh,
maybe it was 10 years.
It was more than that. It was more than that. Because,
God, see, there you go, and that's endurance. That's what I'm saying.
I follow all the Rons, and he was, he's been around a long time. So, Giles wanted to know, because you came back in 2016, I think it was, and did the Brits again, and took fifth. And he wondered what happened. Why didn't you look as good that year? Because he never found out.
Just over dieted. Just got it a little bit. Just got it a bit wrong. Came in a little bit flat. I think condition was probably actually superior to previous, but condition doesn't show if you're not full.
Right.
So although I could have looked at myself 2 weeks prior when I wasn't totally sucked down, I probably would have looked better. But I sucked down too much to the point where I couldn't get back up in time. Yeah. You know what it's like. The last few weeks before a show, if you are manipulating foods, it can be hit and miss. And I think I just made a couple of mistakes. I actually worked with Evan for that show, and condition was, condition was ridiculous. Like, he got me probably the sharpest I've ever been, even sharper than this year. It's just that we could have probably started filling me up a week before, and we didn't, which simple mistake, and you learn from that, and you just got to take it on the chin and use that information for future preps.
Now I got to know how do you know Evan? How'd you end up working with him?
I just emailed him. I just emailed him one time. I've always followed Evan, and
great guy.
I basically, I think Evan's a great guy. He's fantastic, and I just thought I wanted to work with someone who's not conventional, who's not one of the people everyone talks about, because I kind of like doing my own thing, if I'm honest, typically. And so what I did, I decided to message him. He was really cool, got back to me pretty much straight away, helped me out a lot, taught me quite a lot of things. And even to this day, even though I don't, prep with him, I still talk to him, and I still consider him a great friend, and we still send the odd email, catch up with each other, and I still watch all his content and learn from him even now. So I still really highly, recommend his services as well. I think he's a great coach. I think I just needed, I personally needed to grow, and that's what I didn't get out of that prep. So, it's nothing Evan done wrong, because Evan's fantastic. If you want to get pilled or diced for a show, he is a great guy at doing that. It's just that I needed to reevaluate things and assess what I needed to improve, and what I needed to improve was I needed more muscle.
Ah.
So yeah.
So let's talk about this year. You did all the shows in the fall, it looks like, right? You did.
Yeah, I did a few. I was just trying, because it was my first year working with my new coach, which you probably have the information, which is Jordan Peters.
Yep.
So I knew, and he knew, that it's going to be very hard to get things right first time around, because it's the first time we're working together.
Yeah.
So we just said, let's get some shows under our belt, work out the body, and then see what we can do with that. I went to the Arnolds and I got it totally wrong, which, it happens. It was a bit disappointing. Yeah. And then I went to Poland to do the Diamond Cup, which I got second to Radek. If you know him, he's quite a good Radek. He's quite a known Polish bodybuilder. Yeah, he's very well known over there. I think it's going to be hard to beat him regardless, because he's got a very good following, and he's been around a long time. He's very established. Yeah. So I was really happy, because to get second to someone like him kind of showed me that I'm pushing, I'm nearly there.
Was that a pro qualifier, that show, the Poland show?
No, it wasn't. I just did it solely for experience, to learn my body. I was just like, I've got to understand my body more. Yeah. And the only way to do that is actually do the shows. Yeah. The funny thing is with that show, actually, I only found out that I was invited to it on the Friday, and the show was on the Sunday. So I literally got on the phone to my one of my best pals and said, do you fancy coming Poland tomorrow? And we literally booked it. He sorted everything. He was fantastic, actually. He's a really good friend of mine and a client, actually. And he sorted out everything. We got there. It was smooth. It was one of the best looks I've ever brought to date. So that kind of last-minute rush had no detrimental effect on my physique whatsoever. So when people were like, oh, flying does this, flying does that, me personally, I think it's a little bit of bullshit, but, I just think if you're not ready, you're not ready, or if you are, you are. It's more what you do when you land that's going to make you better or not. If you land and you eat too much, or if you drink too much, or don't drink enough, don't eat enough, that's going to be the difference between how you look yesterday and today. Yeah. I don't feel personally, for me, that a shortish distance flight is going to make much of a difference in how you look.
I mean, what's Poland, like a 3-hour flight from?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it was about 3.5 hours, which is, nothing crazy. Right. And it was an enjoyable experience, actually. I like Poland. It's a nice place. If anyone hasn't been to Poland, it's worth a visit.
All right. And so, finally everything came together at the British. I mean, how many times had you done the Britons before as a junior and as open?
Oh, God. So junior, I won it in 2009 as a junior,
Yep.
which was the under 21s. So that's once. 2012, I got second in the under 23s. So that was the new juniors. 2014, I won the supers.
Yep.
No, 2013, I got third supers. 2014, I won the supers.
Okay.
2015, I flopped, didn't even get a look in.
Right.
2016, I got fifth, and in 2017, I won. So seven
right?
attempts.
Okay.
Yeah, so it just shows you just got to dig in and keep going, man.
Yeah. Well, you're not an overnight sensation. You certainly had to do a little bit of work. For it.
No, I've done 7 years of a 28-year-old life, and if you consider you can't bodybuild probably for the first at least half of that, it's quite a long time. I've been doing it really in my adult life, so
Right.
I'm a little bit of a slave to the game.
So 7 times. What was it like to finally get the whole overall after all those attempts being there?
It was weird because in the lead up to the show, obviously I'm good friends with Luke. People like him were very much like, this can be yours this year. This will be yours this year. I believe you. And I don't know. I was just like, but I don't like to say. I knew I could be good. I know I can be good enough, but saying you can be good enough and getting it right in a day are two different things. Yeah. So my concentration, I kind of just everything that was said to me, I admittedly just like let it bounce off my head. I don't really like pay attention to it because I've been in that position before when I've soaked it in and used it, and my ego's rose a little bit, and it's not actually given me what I need. I kind of just need to not listen. Crack on, make sure every day is the best it could possibly be, and by the time the show comes around, that's all the work I could have done. So to win, I don't know, it felt like it had to happen and it was going to happen. I did feel confident because I knew that what I brought in 2014 was good, and if I could bring that with new tissue, I can win. And I was a few kilos heavier with the same kind of condition, so I knew I was in with a chance. And like I say, to win that was a blessing. I had guys like Flex message me after saying, how's it feel to be on the list? Because obviously the thing is with it, being an overall British champion is quite a rare thing. Like you say, there's only one a year, and that's done now, it's over. And I was very fortunate that I got on that list, and there's only 30 people that have done it. Wow. So I'm just privileged to be on that list. If nothing else happened in my career now, I would still be very happy the fact that I made it onto that list. So
I was, we were talking right before we started recording, and I was a little concerned because I just found out talking to Giles a few days ago that the UK BFF has sort of aligned itself with IFBB, the Santoha IFBB, the other IFBB. So
the elite.
The elite. So I was concerned that you were going to have to, go do another show next year just to get the pro card. But apparently, you're good.
I was lucky, Ron. Yeah, I was lucky because there was a lot of hoo-ha while I was dieting, and I had friends that were going for their pro card this year as well that I think gave up when they heard that we weren't going to get a pro card.
Wow.
I think they took their foot off the pedal. I think there was guys that could have given me a run, but were a little bit too obsessed with the pro status. Yeah. Whereas I wanted to win the overall British, and I said, regardless of what happens, I'm going to just go for that. Yeah. I was fortunate because I was contacted by Bob Cicciarello previously saying that they're going to adhere to the fact that the information was given out so last minute for people that anyone that qualifies for their pro card this year the traditional way, we will actually see it through and give you a pro card. Awesome. So it was nice to hear that because, although the goal was to win, the British, the pro card ultimately is kind of the, let's say, the gem. So it was nice of Bob actually to get in touch because he didn't have to get in touch, right. So once I knew that, which was quite close to the show, I was like, yeah, man, this is full steam ahead. Let's try and get this. And it came to be. So I was really fortunate.
So that happened. I mean, when was the Brits? Was that like the end of October?
October. I think it was like the 15th.
So literally, you only had about a month. All that crap went down at the Olympia. Literally, I think it was like 4 weeks before your show. So what was the reaction among the British bodybuilding and fitness community when that happened?
It was really odd because people just didn't know where anything stood. But again, Ron, I tried to not listen to any of it because if you looked on Facebook, if you looked on Instagram, if you looked on Twitter, all everyone was talking about was that is there or isn't there a pro card, blah blah blah, and it was just a lot of it was a very unsettled kind of environment, and I didn't want to be in it, so I ignored it. And that's just, to be honest, I just ignored it as much as I could. I had people messaging me saying, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" I just ignored their messages because I just couldn't get involved. Yeah, I just couldn't. I didn't want to get drawn into that whole hoo-ha. I just didn't. I wasn't in the place to do it. I wanted to give my all to the prep. Right. But the UK scene was very. It was almost like post-apocalyptic. Yeah. It felt like an atom bomb had gone off, and the dust was settling, and what's going to happen now? It was very weird. It was very weird, I have to say. Yeah, very very strange environment to be in. It was somewhat. It was very disbalanced, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, America, we didn't. The U.S. bodybuilders weren't affected in any way at all. If anything, actually, they're actually have even more opportunities to turn pro, as if we didn't have enough.
It's like Luke said, they can hop over here if they want and get a pro card.
Right, but I think you can do that. I think you can do that qualifier in any country now, so everybody's got the same advantage, which is cool.
Yeah, everyone's basically welcome to every show, and basically everyone has an opportunity several times a year to earn their pro status, basically.
Thank God you've already got it, so you're cool. You're good.
Oh, I'm so happy. It's a very nice end to the year, put it that way.
So we had Luke on, and he came a little bit later to the Size Game podcast. I believe it was yourself and your friend Banji. You guys started the Size Game podcast. Whose idea was it? How did it all get started?
It was again, like Luke said, it was all Banji. To be fair, he's the brains. He approached me. I think it was by an email one day to say, "Do you fancy doing a podcast show?" And I had I still got no experience of podcast shows, and I haven't listened to any or whatnot. But I thought, sod it. It's a very, very good, kind thing of him to ask, and to be kind of a voice for the UK scene is a very good position to be in. I think it's nice to be able to, highlight who's done well, any of the news, any of the topics, and because it's fun, it's interesting to. You're almost an anchor, so I was like, "Sod it, man! I'm going to jump on this because this could be quite a good experience." Because at the time I was still an amateur. I thought bodybuilding is giving back, so I might as well take what I can from it. And that was just one thing that bodybuilding gave me, was a position to be someone who has a voice. So it was. I was really fortunate that Banji got in touch with me. I don't know why he got in touch with me, because maybe it's probably about 100 people who got in touch before, and they just probably thought he wasn't serious. But fortunately, it is how it is now, and we've got a real good setup, and I think people enjoy the show. So there will be a third season at some point.
I confess, I've never heard any podcasts ever either. Not even that one. Sorry, but eventually I plan to someday. But what I do hear reviews of your show. They say you guys just have. It's just three good friends just bullshitting for however long. And
it pretty much is.
You guys all get along really well, and it's fun. You guys have fun. That's why people like it. It's clear.
Definitely,
it's not work. You guys are really having a good time.
Oh, of course. And the dynamic changed a little when Luke came along, because he's just a big comic. He's just he is a massive comedian, and I wasn't sure how it's going to go, because he come in and our conversations got a little bit darker, a little bit more humorous, and but. That people like the kind of conversations we have. We do talk a lot of shit, but not everyone wants to just talk bodybuilding. We do talk bodybuilding, but they do like to hear about other things as well. We talk about movies, obviously comics because Luke's obsessed, games because I like games, and then Banji tries to talk about women because he likes women. So, it kind of is what it is, and we all have our little bit we give to the show. We get good guests on as well occasionally, like we had John Jewett on the other day, and it was more of a mellow episode, but it was a brilliant episode. I really enjoyed it. So sometimes we have these serious kind of interview-based episodes, which gives it a nice break from our humour, and then at other times we have the humorous episodes as well. So you're in for a treat. It's kind of like a mix of genres, let's say.
You never know what you're going to get.
No, you don't, and I think that's why, because we don't follow a script or anything, like kind of how we are now. We're just rolling off the, straight off the cuff. I think that's best. People enjoy that, and I think that makes a good show because the conversation can go anywhere. So
I'm going to mention the gaming thing. A lot of guys out there are gamers. My son is obsessed. Spends way too much time doing it. So what is your favorite platform? Are you on a PC or are you on a gaming system? And what's your favorite? PS4? That's your favorite one? And
Yeah, PS4.
What are your favorite games of all time? What's your favorite right now?
Oh God! So of all time, I have to rewind now. Let's go back to like the PlayStation 1 days.
Yeah.
Huge fan of Resident Evil 2, and the original Resident Evil. I don't know if you played these ever, Ron. Did you ever play these?
I'm too. I was good with Atari 2600. It had one stick and one button.
Sorry, you've gone too far back in time there.
Yeah, that's way back.
So yeah, I'm talking like PS1 days. Yeah, it was like PlayStation. I used to play Resident Evil, Final Fantasy 7. There's a lot of people that bodybuild are quite geeky as well, which is cool. So I imagine a lot of people that are listening would have been into Final Fantasy. So that was personally for me, Final Fantasy 7 was the best game of all time, and still is. Best game now that I've played probably in the best game I played this year, let's be honest. Yeah. So anyone that's listening that's into games is Horizon Zero Dawn, which was a really good game. You play as a woman basically in a post-apocalyptic kind of world where it's full of like green like life. Like the world doesn't look like it's been through any like carnage or anything, but there's ruins everywhere and there's no animals left. It's just all machines. But that's so you're trying to discover why the world is full of machines and not animals, which is quite cool. So if anyone wants to play a really good game this year and you haven't played yet, Horizon Zero Dawn.
And last question about gaming. What game are you looking forward to that's not out yet?
Funny you say that because there's two games, and this is so sad to me because it's what I've mentioned already, but Resident Evil 2 is being remade. So and Final Fantasy 7 is being remade. So those are the two games I'm really looking forward to. But if we want to break it down and not be boring, God of War, the brand new God of War coming out looks really good. Yeah. So we'll see. And Last of Us Part 2 as well. I don't know if anyone.
I didn't even know that they remade games.
They do because there's like this massive. It's like there's a huge cult for certain games, and the only way to please these people as they get older is to give them the same again. Like they're never going to accept something that's a follow up or an offshoot. They literally want the same again but improved, and they want the story retold. And I have to admit, I'm one of those guys. I'm looking forward to seeing the characters that I loved them with the shitty graphics back in the day, all brought to 2018, looking fresh. So we do get excited about games. I get a little bit too excited, if I'm honest. But we got to enjoy something, haven't we, Ron?
Do you know what my first video game was?
I don't know. I don't even know what it is. Go on, fire away and let me see if I know that.
It was the first video game. It was called Pong.
Oh, was that just
the paddle? Ooh, exactly. It was good. I could do that all damn day.
Like tennis.
Exactly. So King's Gym, is this your gym? Did you?
I'm one of the co-founders. So I was approached. Pink's Gym I used to train at closed down.
Yeah.
I was approached by a gentleman who was keen on opening a new gym, but he wanted someone who had the brain, who's been involved in gyms to be a part of it. Yeah. Unfortunately, he approached me, and we sat down. We had a few meetings, and we decided to look at plots around the area where we lived. Yeah. Found a really good location in South London, and just agreed, that's the perfect spot. Let's get this started. And his two sons we're essentially all partners, so we kind of run the gym in different ways together. So someone handles admin, I handle social media, another handles the staff. So we all kind of got our little roles. And the original guy, John, is the investor, so he basically was the money behind the gym, and we're kind of his minions. But we're happy to be his minions because it's nice to be involved in something as good as that. Yeah. I was originally the general manager, but with competing and stuff, there was a lot of hours being spent there that meant I couldn't really focus on competing, so I did pull back. Yeah. And I was really lucky that the guys said, we want you involved always, James, so let's just look at your role. We'll give you something that suits you. You let us know what you want, and we'll make it work. And they gave me a role that makes it work for me, so I can still bodybuild, still be involved in the gym, still have a say, and still, train there and love it. And it's a bloody fantastic gym, I have to say. I don't think there's a better gym in London, if I'm honest.
I mean, what kind of clientele do you have? Is it a mix of everybody?
A mix of everyone, predominantly kind of rude boys. I mean,
what is a rude boy? I've never known what the hell a rude boy is.
So I'm trying to think if there's anyone that you'll know, like music-wise. There's a guy over here called Stormzy. He's quite popular. It's kind of like anyone that's, you know, like you got hip hop in America. Here you've got like UK grime, which is like hip hop.
Okay.
It's kind of like those guys. So it's kind of like your hip hop clientele.
Okay.
So like, I got a lot of my friends that are, you know, different ethnicities trained at the gym. Don't get me wrong, it's multicultural as hell. Yeah. It's brilliant. Like my partners are Indian guys. A lot of my clients that come are black guys of all different descents, you know, like Nigerian, Ghanaian, you name it. And then I've got, you know, there's Caucasians. Like, there's everyone and anyone in there. So it's a real nice
about, like,
mix.
the goals, though? I mean, do you have people do you train there? I mean, is it serious people as well as people who just want to be fit?
All levels, Ron. Like, seriously, like, young and old, trying to get fit, trying to get strong. Whatever their goal is, they're welcome there. It doesn't matter, you know. Even if you're doing it just purely for leisure. You know, so we always say this, and we always like hashtag it on our posts. It's like, we call it the King's Gym family, because everyone gets on with everyone. It's such a fantastic place. And I say there's no discrimination. Everyone's welcome. It's just one of those places that everyone gets on. And you never come out of there without a smile on your face or not feeling good. And that goes for everyone. So
gaming is something a lot of bodybuilders do, but you do something for a hobby that not many bodybuilders would even dream of. You're climbing mountains, like real mountains. You've climbed Kilimanjaro, for God's sake.
Yeah, Kilimanjaro. That, for me, was something that I had to do for not my external kind of feelings, but for my internal. You know, there comes points in life, Ron, where you've kind of like dedicated yourself to things, and you kind of can be pulled so much in one direction that just to remind yourself that you're not only one thing, you have to go and do something else. So for me, like, mountains is like a way for me to stay grounded, like to understand that I'm not just a bodybuilder, that I have something else to me. Because although I am a bodybuilder and I love it, I don't want to, you know, just be a one-trick pony. I have to have more to offer to the world. Yeah. And by doing these things like mountains and that, you kind of shun the people that think bodybuilders aren't fit or can't do anything other than lift weights. So for me, it's like there's two reasons in it. One, for myself, and two, to show that guys like us that lift weights and whatnot aren't just one-trick ponies. So there's more.
Kilimanjaro, that's a famous one. Have you climbed any other really famous
ones? No, but I plan to. I've got, like, my friend, actually, that I did it with was the first, again, the guy earlier I was talking about that I got into bodybuilding with. He basically left bodybuilding now, and he's very into that. So there will be more. There will be more. Not probably for the next 2 years, but maybe the year after that. And I think a time after my bodybuilding, it'll be something that I do very frequently. I probably get very into it because I don't want to personally be bodybuilding way into my late 30s. So I think, you know, mid to late 30s, I'll probably start doing things that are a little bit more adventurous and get involved in the climbs, because I have to say the climb on Kilimanjaro for me was probably the best experience I've had in my whole life. And if anyone wants to do something that makes them feel alive and it feels like their life's not really giving them much, go and climb a freaking mountain, seriously, because I tell you now, Ron, it makes you just like so in touch with yourself. You've got none of this, no technology, can't call no one. You've only got you and the people around you, and you bond on a level that you wouldn't find in every single day situations, because we're all too busy on our phones and shit. So no, seriously, it's amazing. I highly recommend it to anyone if anyone's even questioning themselves slightly, saying, should I? Yes, you should.
So, you know, you were probably like 270 pounds when you did that climb, I'm guessing.
I was pretty heavy, actually. Jesus, I might have been a little bit heavier, actually.
So
maybe, like
that had to be really hard for you, really hard.
It's funny because, do you know, the thing is, it's like altitude is the one that does you. And I wasn't affected by altitude at all on this trip until the last day. Whereas I know there was people on this trip that were a lot smaller than me that were affected by altitude. And there were people that were more obese than me and had no problems at all climbing the mountain. So you can't really point at someone and say they're going to do it or they're not. You would be surprised with what people actually fly up the mountain versus the people that don't. Like, some of the people you would have looked at on this trip and said, there is no way they're even getting past the first day. Yet they were at the front the whole time. So it's really hard to say, because it's like, although it is fitness, it's more how your body deals with altitude.
I don't know how tall that thing's, like 30,000 feet up or something ridiculous, isn't it?
It's like, it's the tallest one in Africa. So I think it's the tallest single peak mountain in the world.
Wow.
So single peak, like not part of. So it's a big old mountain.
I mean, it must be. I can only name like 3 mountains, and that's one of them. So
Yeah, no, it's like I say, yeah, it's the one that we all know, isn't it?
somebody wants to know, because check out your Instagram. What's your Instagram is just your name, right? James
Yeah,
Hollingshead.
it's my surname Hollingshead with 89, my year of birth. So just Hollingshead 89.
So many feats of strength on there if you peruse through that. Have you ever done strongman or ever thought about strongman just for a kick?
I did strongman once after I won the Junior British in 2009. At the beginning of 2010, there was a strongman event that I just signed up for because at the time it was actually also a charity event. So I thought, sod it, let's do something good. Yeah, and I signed up for that. I think there was 20 or so guys in my class, which was the novice class, and I ended up coming out of it joint first.
Wow.
Yeah, so
How long did you even train for that? Because those
I didn't train for it at all. Never done any of the events at all. Never, ever, ever. But raw technique, shit. Raw power, good. It was like if I had some bloody technique, I might have been even better. But
that's amazing because there's all that stuff. I've watched many of them. There's so much technique to it. These are big dudes, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, were you doing the rocks and the giant logs and
so we had the truck pull, we had the axle press, we had the carry and they had like water barrels, farmer's walk, tire flip. Yeah, it was literally everything. It was a really good setup. But yeah, I don't know how I did that well. I think it's just because I had my girlfriend at the time in the audience, and you know it's like when you got your woman in the background, you're like, shit, I better not make myself look like an idiot. So I think adrenaline was more than anything.
most of us would have torn a muscle or herniated a disc in the process.
I know, and I wouldn't advise it. I was so lucky to not. I'm actually still fortunate now that I've never torn anything. So
Wow.
Touch all the wood around me. I've been very, very, very lucky. Very, very lucky.
So some questions from the forum. George UK, George White. I don't know if you know George.
Yep, I know George.
So he said, you're renowned for being a strong bodybuilder. When was the last time you were impressed by another bodybuilder's strength?
There's a couple of guys. We hold a competition at the gym every now and then, which is basically a deadlift competition. And we have a gentleman that comes down who is I think he's over 50 years. He's 53. A guy called Rob, and his name on Instagram is Chiseled Ice. He weighs, I think, maybe low, I think probably just under 90 kilos, 53 years old. And I kid you not, in front of me, he whipped up 305.5 kilo like that, which is 7 plates and a bit aside. 53 years old. Don't get me wrong, he's got a fantastic physique and he wins bodybuilding shows as well. But he impresses me because I just don't know how he's stayed so. He's like Dexter Jackson. He just doesn't age.
Yeah.
So yeah, that guy impresses me all the time because he's just so bloody powerful. And then there's a couple of young guys that they look like this. They look like a streak of piss. And I mean, I've seen them whip up 300 kilos like it's nothing as well.
Huh.
So it just goes to show, again, like you said earlier, technique is such a massive thing in any of these kind of lifts. So yeah, I'm impressed, lady. Luke impresses me, but I'm used to Luke. But I expect Luke to be strong because he's such a big bastard. So if he wasn't lifting as much as he is, I'd be like, you should be lifting more, lad. So
bench press is one thing you're really good at. What are some other lifts that you're really good at?
To be fair, like when I train with a lift, I can get strong on any lift. To be fair, I was doing in the past. I was squatting over 300
kilos.
Yeah, so that was 600 and
something.
Oh God, 660 something like that. So yeah, like I have done massive lifts, but what I tend to do now is kind of make the movement harder. So I haven't really tested myself. Yeah. But the off season's coming up. Next year is going to be the first time I've had a whole year to grow. Yeah. So what I'm going to make a promise now is that I'll put up some nice lifts for everyone in the year to come, because I think there'll be some good lifts. If strength's climbing like it is now, and body weight keeps rising, then I should be able to put up some good footage for people to watch. It's all fun, isn't it? So maybe get some good lifts.
So we asked Luke all about his musical interests. What do you like to listen to when you're not in the gym, and what do you like to listen to when you're training?
Oh, God, I'm not like Luke. I'm not a massive rock, but I do like some. I like a bit of Five Finger Death Punch. I've seen them live. I like Machine Head sometimes as well. Just trying to think through my previous, but I'm a fan of the early 2000s. So obviously I was listening to a lot of Eminem, a lot of D12, a lot of all of the artists that were kind of signed to him at the time, like 50 Cent, Obi Trice. So that kind of always has been what I listen to. But I do like other bands as well. I like a bit of softer music at times as well, but it does depend on the mood and what I'm training. And then other times I find myself listening to, like soundtracks for films, which haven't even got vocals. Right. So it entirely depends what I'm training and what mood I'm in. To be fair, at home I'm very peaceful. I like to listen to peaceful music, so I'll probably go on to YouTube and put on something more along the lines of like a soundtrack to a film that's kind of subtle. It's just background music for me. It's just like meditation rather than foreground music. So,
what one kind of music would you immediately change the station if it came on?
To be fair, it's probably like house music. Like not into that.
I love house music. Anyway, but the correct answer was country music. So
country. I probably like a bit of country, to be fair.
A lot of people do. I guess it can't be that horrible.
I love Nick. And I'll tell you actually, I'm a fan of Nickelback as well. God, like I know people don't admit that, but
I've never heard anybody admit to that.
I know, and I wondered why. Like, because I've been looking around and it's like a known thing that people don't admit they like Nickelback, but I actually like them. They're a bit soft, but I think that's quite good.
They've sold millions of, they've got something. If they've
exactly. There's something.
So the new generation of Brits, we got yourself, Rosie, Nathan, Sasan, Luke, Ricardo. We didn't see a lot of great talent coming out of the UK for a while. And now it's like boom, boom, boom. Why do you think now we're seeing such a big surge of talent come out of the UK?
I think because once you get one person who sets the bar, others work harder. And Nathan set the bar. Nathan was the predecessor to us. He set the bar. People don't want to be any less great than Nathan is, because obviously you always try to be as good as the person you look to. Yeah. And I think all of us look up to him to a certain extent. Sasan came the year after, Luke came the year after, and I came the year after. And we're always going to compare ourselves, because that's bodybuilding, to the person who's kind of ruling the pack or leading the pack. And Nathan is essentially the lion right now. But we're all hungry as well. So that's why we push so hard. And we all bounce off each other. The good thing is that in the UK, we have good relationships with each other. Yeah. Like I'm not saying they don't in the US, because I don't really know. They seem to get on really well. Yeah. But we all communicate with each other. Nathan's kind of off doing his own thing now because he's Mr. His big boots. Right. And but Sass and myself and Luke, we talk. Is to get motivation off each other. We only have to send a message. And if any of us weren't performing, or seemed out of place, or seemed unhappy, I'm sure one of us would step up and say, "Are you right, brother? Are things okay?" So we look out for each other as well, because we are all friends. So I think that's really important as well.
So because you mentioned Nathan, I have to ask, do you have any desire to go put everything on hold and take off to Kuwait for months or longer?
Oh, it crosses the mind all the bloody time, doesn't it? At the end of the day, it would be interesting to see what would happen. I'm not saying, because I know it's just pure regime, strict protocol, no fucking about bodybuilding, and that I can kind of do that to a certain level here, and that's why I've had progress. I think it's just that there you can have it 100%, so therefore you progress even more because you've got no distraction. But it would be fun just to do, just for experience sake. And who knows? I'm going to do my first pro show probably 2019 early, so I got this year off.
Oh wow!
If I came into my first pro show and I wasn't happy, then, or if I'm coming up to my first pro show and I'm not happy and I know the body needs to improve because I know how good I need to be, then I'll do it. I would do whatever is necessary within reason to, make the changes that are necessary. So
you're kicking off all of next year from competing?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm one of the people that I've competed so regularly that I know that I need that. I need that time just to let my body fill up and get used to being heavy and stay that way for a while. And I'm not in a rush.
What do you see, when you look at the pictures from the British, what do you see that you want to improve on specifically before you get on that pro stage?
Everything, the whole body needs to get bigger. It's a shame because I did over diet because I know I could have been probably 3 or 4, maybe even 5 kilos heavier for the show with the same condition. No doubt about it, because the way I've controlled my response from the show, I've been in the same condition at some points of my rebound and looked better and fuller. And I know everyone says that, but this is the truth. I even had Neil Hill message me saying, mate, like, you could have come in stage at that weight and you would have just absolutely looked spot on the money. And I know that. But again, like I said earlier, it's about taking that and taking that into the next prep with you, rather than being, oh, shit, I didn't get it right. So I think everything just needs to be more volumized, bigger. Cuts need to be deeper. Vascularity needs to be popping. You just got to look absolutely monstrous. You know, got to bring the Dorian Yates condition and just try and dominate, really.
So a couple questions from more people. This comes from Luke Sando.
Okay.
Do you think you have the, Luke says, do you have the hairiest back in pro bodybuilding?
Oh, that's quite possibly true. That's quite possible. Luke's been close to my back. He stayed at my mother's with me. He's seen me up close. So if he's saying that, then it's very likely. I probably have got a hair, maybe even the hairiest chest and stomach as well.
Wow. I mean, yeah. You don't, it doesn't bother you? It doesn't bother you having body hair?
It bothers me, but I'm too fucking lazy to do anything about it.
Well, you know, not very few of us can reach our backs, but you know, you can get our chest.
Listen, Ron, it's bloody winter out here, so you know we need to stay warm. I can't be putting on 5 layers, so t-shirt and a jumper and body hair's enough.
Oh man, did this come from Giles? What did you change in your training style that helped you put on so much size over the last year and a half or so? Because he saw major improvements that he saw. Because he's been following you for many years, obviously.
Oh yeah, he wrote the first write-up on me in 2009.
Wow.
And I remember exactly what he said, and it was hilarious. It was good, but it was hilarious. I switched over to Jordan's kind of, again, like you was discussing with Luke, like the more DC approach.
Yeah.
But it's more of a push-pull regime that was modified to suit my physique and to help focus on elements of my body that needed improving. So frequency on certain body parts was slightly elevated versus other body parts that perhaps didn't need so much work. Yeah. And also just believing in the gym that I can lift more than I do with good form, just not being a pussy, because in the past I used to lift really heavy with good form, and then for some reason I just shied away, and I don't know why. And if you don't lift that heavy, you don't stimulate the growth, and it doesn't matter who tells you otherwise. If you don't lift a certain amount of poundage, the body is just not in a desperate need to grow. Yeah. Because ultimately the environment dictates what your body's going to do, and the only reason for your body to have more muscle is because it needs to lift more load. So for me it was just about actually attacking the loads, reducing the reps, reducing the sets, perhaps doing less in the gym, but just more intense and heavier. Okay.
Well, since now there's a lot of people who heard that they're going to go to the gym and use a lot more weight today or tomorrow. So now we need to be responsible, and because you have no injuries, what do you do to make sure that you don't get hurt? What preventive measures, maintenance things do you do?
First things first, Jordan and I do this a lot. Like our first exercise, we warm up ridiculously on that. You know, if it takes half an hour. So, like, I will start with the lightest dumbbell on a dumbbell press, and I will just build myself up to my working weight as slowly and slowly and slowly. It doesn't matter if it takes 20 rounds, it takes 20 rounds. It's just not being in a rush when you're in the gym. You haven't got to be like, oh shit, I need to get this done. Try not to be time restricted with your training sometimes. I know it's an ask because some people have got to fit in, but warming up's more important than getting it done quick. That, and obviously just like good supplementation. I always use everything within my power to prevent any injuries. Like UC2 collagen, MSM, Boswellia, anything, all those things. I know some people don't really believe in supplements, but I'm a heavy supplement user. I love them, and I haven't had an injury, so you tell me if supplements work or not.
What about like chiropractic, deep tissue massage?
Yeah, I get physio typically from my good friend Oz every other week. He's a great physio. He's brilliant, and he looked after me for my whole prep this year, and he still does my physio now. So basically, every other week. And during every other week off season, but pre-contest every week, every Wednesday, I was getting that done. And we just go and rotate around the body, work on what needs doing. If I haven't got a specific injury or specific niggle, then we just have an order of things. We kind of rotate from lower to upper. Yeah. Just keep on top of things. It's more maintenance than anything else, and stretching as well. Like during training, once my blood's flow in and I've got a nice pump. I do stretch quite a lot, but only once I'm really, really warm.
Yeah, because you're obviously doing something right. If you were lifting these weights that I see you lifting, and you don't have any torn muscles or anything, whatever you're doing, keep on doing that. So,
here's one.
So I guess we don't get to see you compete again until 2019, unfortunately.
No.
But thanks to social media, we can keep track of you every damn day and see what you're up to.
Man.
Cool.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for taking all this time talking to us, MD viewers. I know we're going to appreciate it. And
I appreciate it as well.
I'd like to see you on stage sooner, but you know what? I'm also happy that you're taking the time to do it right, and you're gonna be a very different bodybuilder by the time you get on that pro stage. And
that's why I hope, Ron. In all honesty, it's time to. It's that transition now. We're no longer amateur. Let's actually make it worthwhile, and let's. I said this today on a post. I'm not looking to go on a pro stage unless I make a dent, and that's just me being honest. Like, I'm not big-headed. I'm not egotistical, but I will work as hard as I have to for as long as I have to until I'm ready to step on that stage and at least make people go, "Oh shit, where did he come from?" And that's the goal. That is literally the goal, my friend. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Got a whole year, so we'll see.
Patience is a virtue. Taking your time and doing it right. I love to hear that, because everybody's in a rush these days. Everybody.
They are, my man. They are.
Now. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, James, thank you so much for taking the time. We wish you the very best. Check him out on the Size Game podcast, talking crap with his friends Banji and Luke. And, and what's your Instagram one more time?
It's Hollingshead89.
Hollingshead89 on Instagram, everybody. You can follow his daily adventures at the gym. So, thank you so much for the Ronline Report. This has been Ron Harris with the UK's newest pro, James Hollingshead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.